Oh, yes, okay.
One more time for Kate.
So, the Lions last Sunday, they made the playoffs for the first time. Yeah, and I'm a Michigan girl, and so I'm used to the Lions never winning, so this was kind of a big deal this season, you know, and I had a friend invite me over there, like, come on, it's gonna be a great game, it's gonna be amazing, they could go into the Super Bowl. And I was literally like, I wasn't into it. I'm not into sports. Now, part of it is my background. My dad was born in England, so he only knows British sports. My mother's side of the family, we all have like weak ankles. And so literally, like, we can injure ourselves just walking.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, and when I was a kid, we moved a lot. And so there was like no way to really keep up with the sport. You know, I joined a sport, we'd move, I'd try to pick it up again, and either the team was really good or really terrible. So it was just no reason to be in the sport. And so when my son was born, I wanted to find a way to teach him sports, but like football, basketball, baseball, they're so big in our country. All the 6-year-olds were already like expert level. They're way beyond Micah's level. And so he was relegated to kind of bench warmer teams as a little kid. And it wasn't just the sport. You know, no one tells you this, but there's some, not all of them, but there's some crazy sport parents. Yes. You know, there's, it's like they got, like a couple years before Micah was born, Earl Woods, who's the father of Tiger Woods, created a book called How to Create a Tiger. And it's like they skimmed the book. They didn't kind of read it all, but like like Earl Woods talks about how he's been like, he was training Tiger Woods to be a golf prodigy since he was little. And it's like they read this and all the kids were playing sports like they're going to get a scholarship or a Nike endorsement. And around the same time, there's a couple things that were kind of alarming to me about the sports. The guy, Dr. Bennett Malu, I think his name is, he's the guy that's the subject of the movie Concussion. And it talks about how American football is kind of plagued with this traumatic brain injury that's very debilitating for football players as they get older. There's a couple other things. There's a kid in our city playing Little League in the middle of the summer, and he died of dehydration on the field. And so when Micah was like started as he got older, he's like, you know, I don't want to do insert sport here. I was like, good buddy, let's do it. Let's quit. So good thing. And so my son going into high school, the only sport that he was going to probably get a letter in was marching band. And you know, that's not a bad thing. My dad was in marching band, I was in marching band. You play music, you compete, you travel around. It's all good. Except there's one Sunday, probably about a year after my son started marching band, and he came into the kitchen, was cooking dinner, and he said, can we go to Winter Drumline Finals in Daytona in about a month? And I was like wrestling with the meatloaf, and so I was like, yeah, sure, that sounds great. And I didn't expect anything more from this, except for my son, there's like a beep on my phone. My son had sent me an email with hotel fees, the hotel prices, maps, ticket prices, parking pass information. And I was like, oh, you're serious about this? And so I was like looking through the information. I'm not used to this. You know, you do something in school, and then you go home. And this was something more. This is something that was more involved. And so I was like, let's try this. And so we went to Dayton. And if you ever know what Winter Drumline is, it's not like marching band at all. Like, marching bands are great. There's some great marching bands around here in Chicago. But a lot of the Winter Drumline stuff, it's like a small musical. There's props, there's sets, there's costumes, there's makeup. They're playing like all kinds of like a strange mix of music. One of the shows that we saw when we went to the finals that year, they had one of their set pieces was a plane. Literally a small engine plane. The group that was doing it, they did a show that was based on the Twilight Zone episode where the gremlin is on the wing of the plane. Yeah, it was really elaborate. And it was interesting because at the end of the show, the gremlin like jumps backwards off like the wing of the plane. It was just so cool. And so I was like, okay, I can see why you want to get in this. So my son went from being a spectator for a couple of years, because we would go to this, we'd go to a whole bunch of them around the Midwest, to a performer in it. And I was very proud to watch him. He was very into it. He's a snare drummer. And if you don't know, they're running a 6-minute show. He's carrying 30 pounds of equipment on him, plus a costume. He's got to have his music memorized, and he's got to kind of project and be a part of the show. Now this opened doors, him being in these groups, he got invited to do other things like drum corps. This is a summer thing. And it's a little bit bigger, same props, same premise, same set pieces. Still memorizing music, except now you're on a football field and your show is 8 minutes long. So it's a very active, you know, people are like, that doesn't sound like a lot of athletic activity. He lost 40 pounds in the first year that he did drum corps. This led to him getting a part on the snare line with Michigan State University. And it was very interesting because for all these kids that were talking about football and stuff, my son is stepping foot for the entire game with Spartan State. At Spartan Stadium, playing with Michigan State University. He knows football players, he's like high-fiving Sparty. And it's interesting, I find this, it's one of the things I'm really proud of him about, because I had no idea about this. This was all him. And you know, this is kind of like the thesis of Earl Wood's book, if you read it all the way through. Is that, you know, Tiger Woods is a prodigy, you know, and you know, you want to teach kids to find their passion, what they love, and support them, and that's what How to Raise a Tiger is really about. And it's funny, you know, my son, he's aged out of this now, he's done. I ran into one of these sports moms when I was back home, and she said, well, what's Micah been up to? And I said, oh, he's at Michigan State University, he's part of Michigan State University drumline. And she said, what's he gonna do with that? Oh. And I know, you know, football, I've always said marching band is football without the scholarships. But I looked at her and I shrugged and I said, I don't know, I guess he'll be happy.